Hello everyone, your boy Jeff here with a contest video for my good friend Beth over at REDRUM Records. She's running a contest called I Love the 80s, and that's right up my alley because that's when I grew up. And it's a pretty simple contest, 3 questions, which, whenever I do contest entries, I like easy, simple type questions. So, yeah, let's get right to it. The first question: show 3 of your favorite movies from the 80s. Now, the 80s was a very rich decade for movies. But the 3, well, of what I can show physical copies of, the 3 movies that I love the most, of course, is gonna be Blues Brothers. It's gonna be number 1. I mean, this is probably, in my top 5 all-time movies ever. So, came out in 1980. Shaped my musical taste greatly, especially when it comes to blues music and soul, in terms of just introducing it to me when I was, 9 or 10 years old. So, yeah, 1979, 1980 were key years in my taste building, for sure. So, Blues Brothers would always be one of my favorite movies from the 80s and beyond. Right next to that movie would be Empire. I saw the original Star Wars in 77, the summer of 77, when I was a little kid. And by the time this movie came out, I was a couple years older. This came out in 1980 also. And man, I was freaking obsessed with all things Star Wars. You name it, I collected it if it was Star Wars related. Cards, toys, figures, books, comic books, anything. If a magazine cover had, Star Wars on it, I wanted it. So, if I had a VCR even back in 1980, I probably would have paid whatever it cost to get the tape of Empire. Remember VCRs? Remember you try to buy your own copy of a VHS tape, and it would be like $100. That was even before rental. I know I'm really showing my age. Sorry. But yeah, in top 5 movie of all time again for me here too. My favorite of all the Star Wars movies still, and yeah, I can't say enough good things about Empire. Even though it's kind of a depressing movie, it's kind of it's kind of sad in a lot of places. And by the end, the main characters, are set up for the next episode, but they've been severely beaten around. So I don't know. It just was a perfect storm of a classic movie hitting me at the right time, and yeah. Blues Brothers and Empire both came out in 1980, both huge movies to me. This one came out in 1982, and it's just as iconic for the look of the movie, how it affected things that came after it, and that's Blade Runner. Classic movie, based on the novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. Just the look of this movie, you could tell how it influenced, a lot of science fiction that came after it. Wasn't a huge hit at the time, as I remember, but in later years, I think it grew in popularity and in critical opinion. But the first time I saw it, I loved it. Harrison Ford plays a classic, character who has to hunt down these replicants. You know, it's kind of like, it's like part detective noir story, part, you know, science fiction. You know, there's a lot of mixing of genres. So, Blade Runner, this is another one I can watch, you know, just about any time and be happy with it. And the sequel actually wasn't that bad. I watched it. I actually held off on watching it because I didn't want it to, you know, affect my opinion of this movie, but I really enjoyed the sequel of Blade Runner, which came out a couple of years ago. So, yeah. Blues Brothers, Empire, and Blade Runner are my three that I'm putting for my favorite movies of the 80s. Of course, there are tons more. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. But I wanted to have something to show as a physical copy. You know, shoot, I had a copy of Breakfast Club. I should have showed that. Or even Back to the Future. Roadhouse. I mean, I could just sit here and rattle off movie titles, but we'll move on to the next question. Show three of your favorite songs or albums from the 80s. I got 3 albums here. All 3 were bought by me in the 80s. They were part of my original collection. With this being an I Love the 80s contest, I wanted to keep it, you know, fully in that 80s realm. I think Beth showed some Mellencamp in her answer. I'm going with his 1983 album. You know, contained the classic songs Pink Houses, Crumbling Down, Authority Song, great little deep cut called Play Guitar. You might hear that on the radio every so often. This was really where I discovered Mellencamp. I probably heard, you know, Hurt So Good on the radio before when I was, you know, listening, but it wasn't until this album and I started seeing a lot of the MTV videos from this album, especially like the Pink Houses and Authority Song ones. And then I remember MTV had the famous contest where you can win your own pink house from John Mellencamp, and it turned out to be a giant fiasco. Showing my age again, sorry. That's the early days of MTV, you know. I was a total MTV kid too, so had to go out and get this record. And yeah, it holds up today as far as I'm concerned. I really enjoy it still. Another one that I will enjoy forever. And it was also, I've shown it many times in contests before, but I don't care. This is my kind of like my catch-all, cover-all Hall & Oates entry. Rock and Soul Part 1, their greatest hits. What can you say? I'm going to be a Hall & Oates fan forever, and I don't care. I'll fight anyone on that. Daryl Hall is one of the greatest male vocalists, in my opinion, ever. So, always going to love these guys, and this was the first album I got ever. So, and I still have it. So there you go. And another album that I was pretty obsessed with when it came out was Joshua Tree. I was in high school by the time this came out, 1987. I was a junior going into my senior year, and this album came out. And this is really where U2 finally broke through my consciousness and just grabbed me by the neck and made me a fan. And of course, after this album, you know, I went back to their previous ones, and I bought all their albums for only the next couple of years. I kind of lost my way with U2 by the early to mid 90s, but you can't take away the summer of 87 when this album came out. And their videos were all over MTV, still in the dying days of music video version MTV. And yeah, this is what made them huge stars, deservedly so. Can't say enough good things about this album. So Always loved you too. And I'll always love Joshua Tree. So there you go. All right. Question number 3. A trivia question based on the 80s. Thought about this one. And, I thought about, like who had the biggest chart hit or what movie sold the most, tickets in the 80s or just, random stuff like that. But I'm going to do a little cheat. And if you watch my videos, well, this was from last year. I did a contest entry for somebody else, a different contest. And I talked about the Chicago Bears because in the 80s, it was easy to be a Bears fan in the 80s with, Mike Ditka's the coach, and you had that monster defense, especially in 85. But in other years, before and after that, the defense was pretty good. Actually, statistically, the 86 defense was even better than the 85. But these days, it's not as easy to be a Bears fan. It's just not. In fact, for the last 30 years, it hasn't been easy to be a Bears fan. So my question dealt with the 85 team and which member of the 85 Bears did I talk about in that contest video where I said their birthplace was in San Francisco? If you watch my videos, it'll be an easy answer. If not, I'm not going to tell you which video it's in. You'll have to dig if you're interested in answering the question to get another entry. That's going to be my 80s trivia. So thanks for running this contest, Beth. It's pretty cool. You usually run really fun contests to enter, and good luck to everyone else who entered. And I will see you guys again shortly. Peace. I'm going to try and film something else today. We'll see if I get it done. And yeah, I'll talk to y'all again soon. So take care. 80s rule.